Hey, welcome back everyone. Rob here from Ram Studio Comics. So in today's video I wanted to show you how to draw in some windows and map those out, measure them. So this was a request many times, and I've done videos that kind of touched on this subject, but I think this will be a little bit better for most people. So we're going to give it a shot, and you guys are welcome to ask whatever questions and we'll go from there. But so I'm working on this Venom piece, and I started with the character, then I decided to draw in some background elements, and quite honestly I might even take this into the Procreate app, ink it, add the background with the perspective tools, but I like to flesh some of it out with the pencils regardless. And so with that, basically I've got like a 1-point perspective, so the vanishing point is right here, and you see I kind of drew this side of the building here. This was a preliminary rough sketch that I did that really had no basis of perspective. I was just kind of throwing in an idea. And so I don't know that you would see the side of this building, or you would see the front face here, and since the perspective goes here, you would see the other side. There are certain times when you can just break the rules and just throw it in there just because. I've seen layouts like that. It's not like you always have to follow every perspective rule, but yeah, so just so you know, that's kind of, ignore that. That's just kind of a rough sketch that I threw in there. So yeah, we already got some people here. That's awesome. Tub Dubs, good to have you. ZZ or Exy, hi, good to have you. So yeah, so what I want to show you, I'll kind of tighten up on the work right here, zoom in and move this over and refocus. I want to show you these windows right here and how to divide that up. So it's actually pretty simple, and it works for a lot of things, but let me erase this back. So I kind of tested it out. Always kind of practice before I want to show somebody something, make sure I get it right. But it's really a neat thing. So you've got some vanishing point, or you got a vanishing point here, just put VP, and you run these lines out with your ruler, right? You just kind of bam, 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 and you can measure the side of the page if you really want like a consistent grid over here. I don't really do that. I eyeball a lot of stuff, but what you can do is first draw your window. So I get enough guides in place. I've got a tilted scene. So basically what that means is my horizon line is tilted. So if I was to go up this way, all these lines here should be parallel to whatever angle I've got going on there. And again, I just kind of eyeballed it going back this way. It's up to you if you want to do that, but I find it to work out pretty well. This is, somebody's asking what sketch pad this is. This is a 400 series, I believe. Let me see here. Got some sketches in here. For Strathmore sketch. It's Fine Tooth 400 series. Yeah. So let me see so you can see it. Bam, right there. But it's almost a little too smooth. Like, I like it, but it's, when I work with this darker lead, it smudges quite a bit. I generally use the Bristol board, but I just kind of grabbed this and started working in my sketchbook. So, but yeah, so back to the window here. So what I'll do is I'll first draw in whatever window, and I wanted this to have like an inset, so have it drop in, have a smaller oval right there. And then so I just kind of drew that based on the guides that I had in place, right? But the real tricky part, I don't know if it's extremely tricky, but for some of us it is when you go to draw this next window. And especially when you've got a bunch of them and you want them to line up properly. So up here you can probably see that I just freehanded those, and I don't think they look bad. This one's a little too close. There's inconsistencies there. I think that sometimes that's fine, a lot of times that's fine. You just want to get the work moving and get it done. But if you want to be a little bit more specific and get a little bit tighter finish work, what you can do is you draw a square around this. Okay, so it's basically just a square, and you could start there, obviously. I don't know that I did or not, but you could definitely start there. And then you crisscross the corners, and you find center. That's what this mark is here. And it's probably hard for you to see, but I've already done that, and there's my center, okay? So I run a line across that and I find this point, okay? And then I run a line from here through this point all the way up to the corresponding perspective line. See that? Now I run a line down this way, and then I go across this way. Okay, so what that just did is it took this shape, this rectangular box, and it mapped it into perspective over to here. So you crisscross your, I'm going to repeat, crisscross your corners, find your center, run from the very left bottom edge through the center up to the parallel line, or I don't know if that's parallel, it's a perspective line that matches the top of this over to here. Boom, that's how you get your right corner. Now you run your box in perspective against these grid lines, okay? And then you repeat that process, because here's the thing. Well, let me show you. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to crisscross the corners now to this one. You see it pretty much hit that same center. It should hit that same center. That tells you you're on the right track. And you go across here again. Well, actually you find this point right there. So this point to this point, bottom left, through the middle, and it's going to shoot right off the page, right? So if we kind of imagine it's way over here somewhere. So now we can kind of, see that we're somewhere, and I could add a sheet of paper if I needed to really map this out perfectly. But I can see that this would be the distance from that next window, right off the page, right? So what I could do there, if I didn't want to put this window here, I could divide this back. Okay, so let's do that. And to do that, I would just find the centers again of each one of these. Again, this one I would have to add a sheet of paper, but I'm just going to fake it. Hopefully you get the idea. We know that the centers should crisscross right here. And then I'm going to run a line up that way. So see that? And I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm making some guesstimations, approximations, but it's a lot better than me just winging it, I guess. But yeah, so right there, that gives us our box container shape for this. And if I feel like it's a little too wide, maybe I bring that in a little more. I kind of feel like it is, so I'm just going to make that adjustment. But then from here, we just repeat the line work that's here. So I've got an oval. I can see where the oval starts to break, where that radius starts to occur. I just kind of study from that other one. But now that I have this guide in perspective, it stands to be a lot more conjoined, I don't know, closer to the original. Get this little base piece here. You can't see it here. I've got to erase back. I'm a little messy here. I'm always a bit messy. But I actually have an inset ridge to this right here. I thought that would look cooler than just running it to the very edge. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Good to have you here. Appreciate the compliment on the art. And my sketchbook, good to have you back. Hello. Brian, good to have you. Good evening to you as well. Thanks for the, glad you liked the topic. Cool. So yeah, so then once I've got that in place, I can look at other things and say, okay, what's the distance here? I'm going to use the approximation that I used for this, this little ridge right there to gauge this next piece. I'm going to bring that into about here. But I do have the line that I need right there for the top. And again, I can see where the radius starts to bend. So I can get that in there. You see I brought it closer to this edge of the window. Now I just made a guess over here, but instead of putting it in the center, I did make sure to push it back. So whenever you're doing a depthy kind of window, you got to always think about that, right? You got to push these other shapes in. And show more of this depth here. And then from this point back, something like that. This point back, something like that. I got one here. Where's that? It's right under this line that goes over to here. Hopefully I'm not covering this up too much for you guys. And then again, this last little depthy kind of ridge to the window. Something like this. And then the segmentation for the window panels. So a line down there. You see I use the perspective lines to draw those in. There we've got that. And then I would shadow this in a bit more. And I also put in like these little rendering lines on the window. I don't know if that really works as well as I hoped, but it's there. And just like that, we've got the next window drawn in. Let's see, then I would study it, try to find any little inconsistencies. And I think basically the one that probably doesn't read well is this line being too flat. So by it coming over and back, it makes it look like this area is squared off, which then contradicts this bottom corner. So I feel like that would need to come over at an angle and then drop back. Let me soft erase it and redraw it, see if I can make more sense of those. But yeah, so that's that's basically how I'd map out those areas. And it does take, I find that the hardest part for me is looking through all these sketch lines. But I don't know, as you do it, you just kind of get used to it, I guess. And I do bust out the magnifying glasses as I'm working, especially if it's something smaller. But then I would just go back through here and pick out the lines that I want. And I am going to say, just look at lots of art styles. You'll see that there's tons of imperfections in various art styles. There's definitely people that don't take the time to do as much of this for their comic scenes. And they still do amazing work. Like I always think of like Greg Capullo, Todd McFarlane. Some of their backgrounds are very out of perspective, or just maybe not out of perspective, but just free-handed in, but they look amazing. They look stunning. I just tend to show this type of stuff on the channel here because if you don't have any basis of understanding a perspective, then you're just kind of floating around, and it can be very confusing and very frustrating. But I think what happens is once you understand some of this perspective stuff, you just kind of ease up on yourself, and you figure out where you can take those shortcuts and do what you got to do. But first you have to know the rules to bend and break them, right? So you gotta study this stuff. And yes, there are digital tools that'll do a lot of this for you as far as the layout of it. But even those, you can't use those digital tools without understanding how it all works and fits together. In fact, I find that some of the digital tools will actually make it a bit more confusing because you can place those perspective lines wherever you want, the anchors, the vanishing points, and if you don't know where to put them, then you're just kind of floating around and making mistakes, and that can be just as frustrating. So yeah, you got to have some understanding how it works first. And just keep in mind too, you ever want to make windows or anything look more interesting, you can just keep adding ridges. But this is a pretty small area, so I don't want to add too much of that, but you can definitely make them look more detailed by just adding smaller areas. All right, just trying to read some of these comments real quick here. Oh yeah, Tomic, happy to help. Yeah, so Tomic had a question about legs, and I had some spare time, so I was able to draw some legs out for him and share it. And then I am sharing it in the course content I make anyway. So it was kind of like something that I was able to utilize again, Tomic. So I'm glad it helped you out. Yeah, and I'm going to be doing more of that. I want to do more drawovers. I'm trying to focus more on the course content and answering people back quicker and taking the time to actually draw through their artwork. So if that's something you need, just let me know, and you can try out my free course on my Ram Studios site. see if you like the teaching style and the content there, and then you can, if you want one of the other courses, you can join in. But the main thing, like I said, is I'm going to try to do better where I spend more time doing drawovers, because I just think it's really important. Like it really helps. It's one thing to sit here and show you and say, well, do this, do that, you know, try this, try that. But sometimes if somebody just shows you by drawing over the work a little bit, it can really save a lot of time and frustration. It's like, oh, I totally see what you mean now. It's that visual language, you know, like just saying, I don't know if these would go out like that, but I feel like they would. So I'm just trying to figure out these little angles right there. But I still feel like it would be more interesting to have those inset, you know, than just a straight cutout of the window. So that's why I'm trying to figure out this little layout here. So AWAB, AWAB, or you probably just say the letters. Have you ever done any courses on cross-hatching for comics? So I've got one course that's uh, rendering techniques, or the art of rendering for comics. So that pretty much covers that. And I get into a lot of this stuff right here. You know, how I develop shadows, crosshatch, and yeah. So I basically do have one on that. It's, you know. You'll notice the difference, because a lot of my comic art courses are digital, but then the one that has the traditional art for the cover, that's the one where I cover it more. So yeah, there is one on that. And so yeah, so the other thing I do is, as I'm creating these window shapes, I'll just, or any of these parts of the building, I'll just add like ledges as I go. So I might add like a ledge right here. Below these, bring a line over this way. Maybe another ridge under there. And I feel like that's really enough. Like the building has already got, you know, too many variations or whatever, but I feel like this is more interesting than this. Like this just looks too boring, so I'm going to add more to this one. But that's really how I do it. I just keep adding little pieces of it until I get something I think looks relatively interesting. I gotta make sure I don't pick up the wrong pencil. I have like 4 or 5 pencils going here. And then the other thing is I try to come up with different, like it's real easy to just do this all the time. Just little rectangles. But sometimes you want to try like just different shapes. I mean, this is just still a rectangle, but like areas that looked raised, so you can put like a shadow to one side. Just little things like that. Maybe put little curves going back this way here. And shadow these a little bit. And then I'll just go back through and add like little bits of rendering here and there. So if I add like a brick texture here, I'll usually skip the next one. Or I can add larger bricks. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Like I could take these right here and make these into larger divides. If I'm not covering this artwork, I'm trying to keep an eye on it. But yeah, just little details like that, and then I'll add like little cracks. This is a bit far away for me to take the detail to another stage like this. If it was closer, I would definitely add like all the little cracks and little. I picture like little stains coming down the wall, and yeah, just a little bit of rendering and imperfections. But I feel like this is almost too far away where that's going to get lost anyways. That's kind of a bit of a waste of energy. All right, let me read through these comments real quick. See if you guys have any questions. Thanks, Edith. Really appreciate that. Yeah, so this is it, and it's a bit messy because it's my sketchbook. Whenever I'm working on Bristol board, this stuff comes out so much cleaner. I even pulled up an old one I did of Venom on Bristol board, and it was very noticeable. I'm like, whoa, yeah, I really got to quit trying to go all out my sketch pads. But there's a certain amount of freedom when you go to your sketch pad that ends up making the drawings come out better, in my opinion. Like, because I'm not working on, the nicer paper and getting ready to try to do what I think in my head is some masterpiece, I just start scribbling here, and then something comes out. So I think there's a lot to be said about that, where you just really have to let go. And even this, I feel like I tensed up too much. Venom to me should have a very visceral, loose, energetic vibe. And I started tightening up and, making everything too tight. And it takes away from that. I think that using more sketch lines, more energetic lines, and looser anatomy is better for this character. Let me see if there's any actual questions here before I continue on. You guys are talking about, every time there's a live stream, you guys start talking about feet. It's hilarious. Artists and hiding the feet. It's so funny. Okay, alarming Nightbot. Hey Rob, I've been following you since I was like 12 or something. That's awesome. Thank you. I really enjoy your work. Any tips you have for coming up with unique building designs in your background rather than the same one over and over? Yeah, a big part I think is studying from life and studying from other artists you admire and seeing how they construct theirs. I do fall into the habit. So like right here, I've got this very rectangular building with some very basic trim, and I put like a water tower thing up here, which I really need to like pull reference because it looks, something's off about it. Probably the top. So I'm constantly changing the shapes, trying to figure out, from a certain perspective, why does this look funny or how could this look better? But yeah, it's very easy to do this where, I see myself doing it here where it's the same old boring kind of thing. Aside from pulling reference, one technique that I'll try is I will try to get like a silhouette going. So for instance, I will draw the side of it. I'll change the shape right there. So let me tighten back up because it's probably hard for you to see. Yeah, it's still not that close, but hopefully you can make it out. So I'll change the silhouette first. So see how I had a basic rectangle there. Then I added this ledge piece. I could add another little piece up here. And you don't want to go too crazy with it, but I think it's important to try this because if not, you'll just put connected rectangles everywhere. Now, there's certain buildings where, if you're doing Victorian looks a certain way. If you're doing, I guess Gothic is kind of similar, but Gothic is Gothic. You got Victorian, you got modern, Modern buildings are very clean and streamlined. Like, so these buildings in the background, you're definitely going to do a lot more of these straight, clean lines with, different ways that you divide up the windows. But, they have a very distinct, clean look, right? It's not, you might get some that have like a cool angle or something like that or whatever, but they're pretty streamlined. These ones, you just kind of want to play around with different shapes. Again, I'll start doing something like that. To avoid the overly boxy windows, I'll do something that has a little bit more Victorian vibe with the pointed tops, ovals. Also, the other thing is like divides the other way. So for instance, if you run, your trim like this, going back this way. And then you figure out your separations, and you go back to the beginning of the video. I showed how to divide your segments up, right? You use that same technique so that you're getting segments divided up in perspective. I'm just going to eyeball this just to save time. So I've got these segments, right? And then what I can do is I can say, okay, well, this is a, let me thin this out a bit. This is a trim piece. This is a trim piece. In between these, we have like some windows that are recessed in that area. Kind of forcing this right now because it's too small for me to really do what I'm talking about, but and that's off perspective right there. What am I doing? Way off. So what I'll do is I'll divide these up. So raised area, recessed areas. And that gives you a lot of options right there. And then you just play around with different window patterns. You know, different ways that you do the ledges. So to me, that's kind of how I break up a lot of things is, you know, kind of a push and pull mentality of, you know, I'm going to raise an area, I'm going to recess an area, and then I just work with that. And if you got these basic ideas of perspective going on, you can play with these ideas and get some things going. And then the other thing is just kind of stacking and overlapping things. So, you know, if you could fit like maybe a little pipe coming off the top here and some smoke coming out of there, and the smoke rolls behind this water tower thing here, and all of a sudden you got another little dynamic and another, oh, I went off the screen, sorry. And you got another little area of interest. So there's that overlap thing that you want to do as well. And then variation. So, you know, you got these up here. You probably don't want to, me personally, I wouldn't carry this down into here. I would take this area and do something different. In fact, I might want to bring out like a, what would you call this? Roof? Not a roof, like an awning. I guess a roof, but like an awning. And then so that be in perspective right there. Bring that back. This would come back this way. So maybe I put a shape like that coming out the front, and then maybe a recessed window here. I think it would need to be wider. Or this could be a, well, it wouldn't be the doorway. This isn't the ground plane yet. But hopefully it gives you the idea that you just keep doing that. And then here you put some recessed trim in there, just so you get that depth and it's not so flat. And on you go. And you just keep trying to come up with different ideas. Sometimes you're going to want to mix in some rectangles for your windows. No, it's too close. I don't like that. I don't like that. Get that out of there. I don't really like this part either, but hopefully it gives you some more ideas. And then the other thing is, like, I don't do as much of this, but I should. These little trim caps. So you have something come off the wall this way. Run like a pillar looking little deal like this, right? And then you got to get good at drawing like animals, so you can do like a cool statue. I'm not good at this, so I'm going to slaughter this, but I'm just going to give you an idea. You want to always start with a rough sketch anyways, because it'll tell you, do I even know these shapes? Apparently I don't, so I got to go pull a reference. But, you know, it adds more area of interest to it. And the further away it is, you can fake it, right? You can just get basic kind of concepts going, and people believe it because, you know, you got to think of it like this. People are looking here first, here second, and then it fades. So your art should do that naturally. I think it makes it easier on the viewer's eyes if you do that. It makes it easier on you for sure, because you're not stressing out about trying to detail every little thing. I mean, look how small that is now that I pulled the camera back. You know, obviously I don't want to detail that. I want to think big to small and try to minimize, you know, any concept of detail there. Yeah, so tone low 187. You can send me your art, or you can tag me in your art, but I don't always get that. If you send it through my contact form on my website, ramstudios.com, ramstudioscomics.com. It's linked in the description box. use the contact form there, send it over, and I'll take a look at it. That's the best way, because I don't know when I'm going to do the next art review live stream, but we will be doing more. I do want to get another one going where I have you guys up on the channel showing your work and we talk about it and do some drawovers. And next time, I don't want it to just be picking your art apart. I want to actually do some drawovers where we help you with your art. I think that's the next best thing, or the best thing, really. Okay, so Edith, saying how do you do perspective? It all boils down to just picking a vanishing point. That's this little dot here, radiating lines outward. You can do 2 and 3 point perspective. Quick tip for that, people always seem to wonder like how to not get distortion in 3 point perspective. Let me show you something real quick for that. It's pretty simple. Ignore there's a sketch on the next page apparently. One quick thing for 3 point perspective. So you got 1 point perspective, lines radiating from there. I would say 80% of your shots are just going to be this. Okay, just 1 point perspective and things that go back in perspective. The real trick is you don't want to center your vanishing point every time. I've noticed that a lot in comics is where you see a good panel and it's really a basic perspective. So you got the panel like this, but they just put the perspective point down here. So it looks way more interesting. So you got something like that going on. Then the rest are vertical and horizontal lines. You can do a lot with just that right there and playing around with moving that vanishing point around. So if it's low, you're looking up at the shot more, obviously. So if you were to just, always remember you can represent a character with boxes to figure this out. Say, okay, if I got a box like this in perspective, there's a torso, here's a pelvis, right? So for the most part, we're looking up at this character. Simple as that. And so that's 1 point perspective. And then 2 point is just going to be like, you got a vanishing point here, vanishing point here. Generally one's closer. I think always, actually. A lot of times I'll put one on the scene like that and the rest go like this. There's your 2 point. And that's going to give you something that, like if you're doing a table, I use this for like a kitchen or a living room scene. I almost use 2 point perspective every time. But the trick I want to show you real quick for 3 point that I think is really important is just take your vanishing points and put them on the outside of your picture plane. So for instance, let me do it over here. So I'll have a picture plane like this. Okay. I'm not going to put my vanishing points like this. Because what's going to happen is anything inside this triangulated area, that's going to work. It's more like this. That's where you want your picture plane. But outside here, you can't do it anymore. It's going to get very distorted because you just can't pull perspective lines out like that and not get distortion. So just a quick rule of thumb is really take your 3 point perspective, however it is, and put your picture plane, call it your page or whatever, your visualization. You ever see when a director goes like this? How they do it like that? Anyways, you know what I mean, like that. That's what this is. That's your picture plane. Then when your lines radiate through here, you're gonna have some distortion because 3 point perspective, in a sense, is kind of a distorted perception. I mean, it recedes away from your view like this, but it's going to look right. Everything in this area will look right, but as soon as you go outside of this area over here, it's going to start looking distorted. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's really all the fundamentals of what you need. Not all of them, but that's a lot of the fundamentals of what you need to understand perspective for comics. It's like if you look at how to draw comics the Marvel way. Let me see. Yeah, I should have just opened up this book. Hold on. Hopefully I can do this in my video. I think you can, right? You can show books in your videos, right? But yeah, here's How to Draw the Marvel Way. One of my favorite books. I keep it handy. And look at that. It's gorgeous stuff. But they just show you the very basics. And they're like, yeah, look, just draw that. Like you don't... But they're trying to show you that it's basically... There's your 1 point. There's your 2 point. There's your 3 point, high and low. And then you just get used to moving that vanishing point around. And also you get used to breaking down panels that you see that make a lot of sense. So when you're, or that are very interesting to you. So you see this panel that, you know, in a book, you're reading one of your comics, you know, you gotta check out your comics, required reading really. I'm finally back and reading more of my comics, not just looking at the pictures. And you'll see a panel and you're like, whoa, that's something I need in my arsenal. That's something I struggle with. And you gotta stop what you're doing and draw it. I always recommend that. It's really important. It's fun too. I think you learn the most just by stopping what you're doing and drawing from panels that you see that interest you. I really do. Pound for pound, that's probably the best exercise you can do. Besides watching my YouTube channel, of course. How can you apply this to human drawing? Actually, I probably missed some comments here. Hold on. Yeah, thanks, Ivan. I really appreciate that comment. Very cool of you to say. And thank you, Reet Daz. I really appreciate that. Andrew, I don't know what you're drawing right now. I don't know what you're doing when you're drawing right now, but all I know is you're doing it right. That's hilarious. Thanks. Okay, so Edith, how can you apply this to human drawing? All right, so yeah, so let me see here. And I just did, here's some sketches, but let's see if I got room on this page. So even this is a pretty distorted character, but I was just kind of drawing from memory, I guess, or not memory, but you know, my imagination. But even still, when I'm doing this, I am thinking about perspective. I've drawn enough where I can kind of see the perspective a bit more. But essentially, if you were to put your perspective in place and you radiate your lines outward, right? And you were to put a character here, you're going to go, I like to use the heads tall model. So I'm going to put a head. I'm going to put 2 heads down as roughly the nipples. Sounds weird, but that's where they're at. And I think 4 heads down is the midpoint of the body. Well, it is because you're going, if we go with the 8 heads tall models, let me just show you. I'll just put 8 stacked heads here. What do I got here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So there's 8 heads tall. Here's my perspective. 1 point. I'm going to have them just kind of standing off to the side a little bit. I'm going to erase back the other heads. Like that. And then I want to draw loose and, you know, somewhat gesturally, and that usually means throwing lines around. But I want to think about the perspective that's in front of me. Legs come to a forward bend, back bend, foot. Forward bend, back bend, foot. Something like that. And notice that if the foot ends here, really this other foot needs to be way down here. Well, I kind of just threw these lines in, but you get the idea that the other foot needs to be down here for this character to be in perspective. See the knee here, and I've got this bend way up here. That's not right. So I follow this line, find the knee, connect the dots in a sense. That bends too far back, even like horse legs or animal legs. Centaur, I don't know how you say that. Shoulders here. Just put his hands on his hips, just make it easy. Elbows can line, again, the elbows would fall into perspective relatively. I mean, you could obviously have one arm up higher, you know, things like that. But see how it starts to, let me get in there a little tighter. But see, that's how you'd put the body relatively in perspective, even though I'm a little bit crooked. That might be my camera because it looks really straight on my page. But, so I erase that back. Then I go to something that's a little bit more, now keep in mind, I like to usually start more gesturally, and I don't think I did that enough. I mean, typically gesturally should really be like, you know, really over accentuate it. Really throw those lines, get a pretty extreme version of the pose gesturally, and then I actually like doing these very small and then working up from there because you generally will capture more energy with those, you know, uncontrolled lines of working smaller. So as you get over to here, you can think a little bit more structurally. You can even throw in some prisms, right? So this is a stereometric drawing. Stereometry, I think is what's called, but it's basically just using primitive 3-dimensional shapes, cylinders, cubes, and it helps you to, keep that idea of perspective going. It also gives you more structure. Something like that. Circles for the knees. Now, the tricky thing about this part, I think, is that you got to be careful to not hinge upon this stage too heavily, especially for comics. It's very necessary at parts, but it can make your characters very stiff. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with stiff characters, so I have to be careful of this. Balance, right? Just these are various techniques, but we have to each figure out how much of this applies to our particular way of doing things. And it doesn't work for everybody the same. So I might show you this and you're like, I try to draw like that and it comes out horrible. Then that might not particularly be the right technique for you, or you're over implementing it a little bit, so you gotta, and I can't teach you that part. I mean, I can instruct you on it, but you have to just put in the time and figure out if that's going to work for you. But the next stage of this is I would soft erase this again and I would draw in the anatomy. And then anatomy is a whole nother monster, right? You got to sit around and draw different parts of the body from different angles and figure out, what parts you don't understand yet. And you're ever evolving that aspect of your work. So it just takes lots and lots of repetition. So hopefully that answers your question in a roundabout way. But that same thing applies to every perspective you do. And then you get to a point where you just kind of wing it anyways, and you it's like pulling the training wheels off. You start to back away from needing that stuff as much. Oh, the name of the book I showed? Oh, come on, you guys. How to Draw the Marvel Way? Everybody knows this book. This is like the book, right? You got to have this one. You should probably have, I was going to count them the other day. I have like 20 different art books. And really most of them, I have more than 20, I'm sorry, but I think I have almost 20 that are just comic related. It's crazy. But it's good stuff. Oh, sorry. Yeah, somebody already responded to you on that. I'm trying to read through these. No, it's a great book. I truly recommend it. Bridgman, Complete Top Drawing Thoughts. Yeah, I love Bridgman. Bridgman is fantastic for anatomy. What I like about Bridgman, like if I was to take this and implement what I learned from Bridgman, is he takes a very angular structural approach. His illustrations have a lot of solid forms. It's very solid, very structured, very strong. So if your characters lack like a strength to them, too kind of like whimsical or flimsy, I don't know how to put it, just soft looking, Bridgman's going to be great for you because his approach and what he teaches shows a lot more angles. And let me see if I got that handy. Hold on. Yeah, I've got a few of his books, but here's one of the quick reference ones that I've got. Yeah, see, I love this stuff right here. In fact, I got to do more of this on the channel. Maybe I'll bring you guys some videos where I break some of these down. But I love how he separates these into pieces. It's just neat. And see, these are what I like too. I like specific studies. I do this a lot. Like if there's a certain part I'm struggling with, I'm breaking down just that area over and over again so I can hopefully figure it out. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't, but I at least try. I'm very dedicated to trying to figure this stuff out. But yeah, he showcases that really well. The little breakdowns, and so he uses like very distinct angles, even when he gets to the anatomy rendering stage. I want to say that part of that is because he used a long stick in a classroom setting. So it wasn't like he was drawing these like this. We have to remember that sometimes we're tightening up too much. Like we're getting in there and we're trying so hard that we're getting in there and we're over detailing when we need to sometimes pull back on the pencil. We need to sometimes lift our arm right up and throw from our elbow and our shoulder. Lots of fine artists do that, and there's reasons for that. You're going to get there's times you want fluidity and there's times you want structure and angles and all that, and you gotta figure out the difference. But yeah, it's just great stuff. I don't know if I'm supposed to be flipping through this many pages, but look at that. That's just sweet. You know, the tricep, and what is this one? This one's the flexors. Yeah, it comes down to the palm. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Supinator longus. Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to learn all the terms. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I did do a video on this, I'm pretty sure. But I just love how he breaks it down in such a simplistic, angular fashion that just immediately makes sense. In fact, this right here, I've been doing this for a while. So like when I do arms, I've got other videos on it, and it coincides with what he did here. I do this, I call it the lightning bolt, and I didn't make this up. I just learned it somewhere. But see that little lightning bolt right there? That's what I do for arms. Well, look right there. That's what this is. His is a little, has one more. It's like boom, it goes back again. I don't have that in mind. So if I brought this here and went back up and back down, yeah. So he goes back around like this and like this. So let me erase that back. And then you would address the other forms. You know, you'd bring out the shoulder, bicep, tricep, forearm, something like that. But that's just that little back and forth. It really kind of opens your eyes to how you would draw an arm, and then you just remember that from different angles. And the tricky thing is, it gets real easy to do it, say from the exterior angle. Can't remember what it's called. Is it lateral? It's not lateral, but anyways, the outside of the arm. You know, this particular view where the palm is down, maybe the fist and the palm is down towards the body. I think these are the easiest to get at first. And then you have to figure out how to draw it like this and rotating all these different ways. And that just takes time, but yes, Bridgman is fantastic. Highly recommend his book as well, or his books, I should say. All right, let me read through these comments real quick. Yeah, Figure Drawing Design and Invention by Michael Hampton. I don't know that I don't think I have that one. I think somebody mentioned that not too long ago on a post I shared, and I got to get that one. So thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, I say get them all. When you look at these things, you're like, books are $20, $30, sometimes 10, right? If you get on sale, used copies, whatever. These things are packed full of fantastic information that when people are sitting there going, I can't draw comics, or I'm trying to get better at doing it, how many books do you got on the shelf? How often do you pick them up and go through them and just do quick studies? Almost just like that. But I mean, that's a bit too quick. But these little studies, like these little gestures, all this stuff, this stuff adds up. I think this was me looking at one of the shots from the How to Draw Marvel comics. It's like just taking some of these and going, okay, let me find a good shot in here. All right, like I know that I lack this in my work. I lack this ability, and I think this is John Buscema, right? And just amazing, amazing work. But I like this ability to get the subtleties of the posture and the posing, and so I need to work on that. It starts with gesture, and it goes into other things. And forgive me, some of these sketches are kind of crazy because I just throw whatever in this book. But all right, so let's try that. So let me see if I can capture what I'm missing here real quick. Pull back a little more. So he's got, I'll start from the very end, and let me show you the beginning aspects of it. So look at that, the gesture, the sweeping lines, where you could picture he's almost throwing from his elbow or from his shoulder, right? Then he goes in with a little more structure. Then he drops in some anatomy. Then he cleans up his anatomy. Then he renders, so that's the process of that particular one. And then, what you can do too is if you don't feel like you're getting it, try a smaller version. So I'll do that first. I'll draw a very small version. And what this does is it forces me to think a little bit more loose about it. I can't well, I guess I could still tighten up on it, but I'm less likely to because it's so small. So just kind of get that in there real quick. Oh. And you know what I find with this type of stuff when you go to study this is you're not just trying to learn what the artist put down, you're fighting your own habits. That's what I find to be the most difficult. I have a series of habits that I've become accustomed to when I draw. So guess what? Whenever I jump in to draw something, those habits rear their ugly heads. So I have to really let go and just trust the content, trust the book that I'm reading, the artist that I'm studying, and let that be my guide. And that's probably the hardest part for me because again, I have these habits. So it's almost instinctive too. Like I'll draw something in and I'm like, well, that doesn't look anything like the study that I was just doing. It's because I went habitually back to what I think I know about drawing a leg or whatever the area of the body is. So the hard part is just, letting go of that and drawing what's in front of you. But anyways, so that's the smaller version. Oh, and he's got the head back this way. So that's another thing I like about this pose. He's got him leaned over. He's got the head angled away from the torso, which, as you probably know, that's a common problem is like we'll always put the head facing the same way as the torso. So let me go to a bigger version now. Hopefully that gave me a little bit of a warm up. And make sure I'm on the screen here for you. All right, so again, think gesturally, throw some of these lines. Now I typically start with my lighter pencil, and I feel more comfortable holding this one back here. And I'll generally throw more of the lines in, like this. This first stage, you're just trying to get the lengths of the appendages and things like that. And then, the hips here. He brought the curve of the leg out this way. This is another area I always struggle to get right. The distance from one foot placement to the other. That goes back to that whole idea of perspective. And then he goes in and he drops in some structure. So to me, this is almost like the stereometric drawing. It's pretty close. But, instead of like a box up here for the chest, he uses a rib cage shape. And what's funny is I got that from Jim Lee, like watching Jim Lee's channel. I do this rib cage shape as well. So I skip the box a lot of times and go right to that rib cage shape. And it was pretty funny. In Jim Lee's video, he explains it as drawing a character with the arms and legs ripped off, a action figure. And floating underwear is the other thing I remember he said. It was pretty funny. He's got some pretty funny comments on his stuff. But yeah, you want to get these basic shapes working. Something like that. And he's got the character really leaned over. So what I got to do, I've kind of mistakenly brought the forms down too far. And because of that, it doesn't have that leaned over impression that he has of, is this supposed to be an old drawing of Luke Cage, right? Anyways, so I need to bring that up. So I need to bring this pelvis like that. Or as I get ridiculed for my old videos, the pelvic, I got made fun of so many times in those videos because I kept saying pelvic, the pelvic bone, instead of pelvis, So anyways, my terminology's gotten a little better, folks. Still pretty lackluster, but it's better. Okay, and this leg is pointed downward. So the other thing is this, paying attention to when things are coming towards us, they have to get shorter and squattier, wider, shorter and wider as they come towards us. So he's got that going on even in the, say the stereometric view. And then the lower leg. See, he's got good curves going even at this stage. And that's something I lack. So again, I'm trying to pick up on these cues that, I'm missing, but it's kind of tough because this isn't how I would draw this character, but that's what's telling me I need to pay attention to his work because I'm doing it wrong. All right, let's see, something like that. He's got the foot over here. He just drew little boxes for hands. And oh, he's got the head tilted way like this. That's a big mistake I was making right there. And then he draws the downward view like that. And he's got a fist over here, so another box shape. Thumb. Okay, just like that. So now, tilt that because that's more like what it's like. So I think that even if I analyze it at this stage, forgive me, I need to look at the perspective a bit more, and I need to place that foot back here more. So I'm going to try to fix that. I'm going to do that in the next stage because this is, you know, pretty basic. But all right, so now let's soft erase it. And another thing that I noticed that I'm doing wrong with mine is not stacking the head on the shoulders more. So he's got it where the head is lower. So I'm going to bring that down like this. I'm going to bring these shoulders up higher like this in comparison. The shoulder's nice and low, so you get that real dramatic angle right there. And let's see the bicep here. Forearm here. And then he kind of draws the chest as like a big barrel shape, like this. He's got the rib cage pretty big. It's funny, I noticed that in the older style comics, the rib cages were very big and rounded, which a lot of artists still draw big rib cages, but it seems like they don't round them as much. There's a lot more angles in today's styles. So let's say something like this. And see, this is always the tricky part for me, like how much to compress and kind of hide some of this. So he's got the pelvis coming way up here, and that's what gives that impression that we're looking down at the character's body. So one thing I recommend is that you kind of think of each major area as having its own perspective. You know, arms reside a little bit in their own perspective. Legs do, you know. So if you get in the habit of thinking of it that way, you can you start moving these things around a bit more, contorting things and overlapping things a bit more. And I think that's what gives you, you know, good foreshortening and stuff like that. So, but yeah, he does that really well. And then so this leg comes down. Now I'm going to bring the knee up because you got to remember the leg from about the hip here to the knee is about the distance from the collarbone to the bottom of the pelvis. Yeah, thank you, Jazz. Really appreciate that. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Jazz Singh, Jazz Singh, right? Beautiful work, by the way. I've seen some of your stuff on David's Skillshare, David Finch's Skillshare, and man, yeah, some really sharp work. Hablo español un poquito. How do you say I speak it poorly? I try. I wish I did. I'm Italian, so I should be able to understand parts of it, but I don't because I don't study like I should be. And so let's see the other leg. We got it coming out this way. This is another tricky part about legs I'm trying to get better at is really bringing it out here first and then tapering this way. It's like I always seem to want to bring this curve down here. So yeah, that's another thing that I'm trying to recognize by the way he did the leg here. And having, you know, the bow to the inside of the knee just right. And really knowing when to bend parts of the body to where it looks more organic and interesting, believable. Going off camera there. And then he starts off with he's got like the cuff here. Puts the fist very rectangular, very boxy at first. bring this leg back here. So you got the head kind of tilted down quite considerably. All right, just kind of analyzing it here for a minute. Okay, so now, losing stream health here. Let me check the stream health, people. Stream is healthy. Okay. Is everybody hearing this loud and clear? It looked like the thing died down, but maybe not. Oh yeah, he did a cover for Dragon Rage, didn't he? Sweet. Yeah, that's Jimmy's project, right? Jimmy Reyes. Okay, so let me soft erase this now and try to overlay the next stage of the work real quick. Storm's coming through. Maybe that's what it is. Uh-oh. Oh, you guys are saying you can hear? Cool. Alright, yeah, I hope everybody stays safe in the storm. Been getting some crazy weather, man. Alright, so now he's got more of the design of the character. Still showing bits of the anatomy. We're starting to get some of the clothing in there. He's got a chain for a belt. Never noticed that before. That's funny. Yeah, this is the other thing I think it's cool about doing this stuff. I've looked at this book over 100 times. And it's not until I just took the time to sit here and draw this particular illustration that I realized he was wearing a chain for a belt. So observation is one thing, but drawing is a whole another ball game, right? That's how you really commit things to your mind and really get better. You just got to sit down and draw it. Doesn't mean it's going to come out right, but you got a lot better shot at it. And yeah, you're going to observe things in a new light because you're actually drawing every little form and shape you can get in there. It looks a little crooked. And then it really makes you respect the artist more. Like, I've always respected Buscema's work, but it's like as I sit here and try to draw it and I realize the subtleties of, what I'm glancing over, there's just such a dynamic and confident way that he's got this character drawn that I can't match it. But I can sit here and try to learn from it, grow. That's all I can do. Tonight I will cry myself to sleep because I couldn't do it. Kidding. I don't cry before bed. I get that way out of the way before dinner. Okay, so thanks 348. Appreciate that. Jack Hart, do you have any tips for writing a script for comics? Ugh. I don't know. I'm struggling with my Blackstone comic. It's like, I know what I want to see in the book. I tend to do my books visually, but I don't know. Now that I'm stuck, I'm trying to go back and write an actual script, which I've never done. And I've illustrated many short stories. I've yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've done a couple of my Blackstone comics. Well, one short story, one full book, and other books for a publisher where I just read the script that they gave me. So I mean, obviously you get visuals from that, because they're writing that for you. But yeah, I'm to the point now where I feel like I have to write a script. So I'm reading. Oh goodness, which one is it? DC's Guide to Writing Comics, right? I think that's it. Where's that sucker? It's around here somewhere. Um, and then one by Scott McCloud, and that's a little bit more visual, but it's on the whole process. It kind of touches on scripts, and it's like you got to take in all the information you can get from it. And then one that I thought was really cool, there was a story about a writer. I can't remember where I read this or picked this up, but it just really hit home for me. A writer that wanted to get better at writing, and so what he did is he was stuck. He was sitting there facing writer's block, which I get that for art all the time. Sucks. And so he's sitting there facing it, looking at blank pages, right? And he's like, I got to get through this. I got to get productive. So he took one of his favorite scripts, and I think it was a screenplay. It was massive, and he rewrote it word for word. And it unlocked things for him. It helped him. It improved. It got him through his tough point. And I thought that was such dedication and tenacity, and that's what it takes. Like, you could easily do that with anything in life, really, but you just retrace the steps of what the greats have done, the people before you, the people who inspired you, the people that are doing well with it. And yeah, I think it really helps. And it seems like that wouldn't do it. Like, that's almost like, I don't want to call it easy. That's not an easy thing to do, but it almost sounds like, really, it's that simple. I just have to write word for word what a great script is laid out like. And it worked for him. So, I mean, if you're battling that and you don't know what to do, take some of your favorite books and don't just, observe them. I don't know how to say it. Like, don't just look at them and read through them and glance through them. Maybe take it to the next stage where you rewrite every word. Or, as artists, that's where it hit home for me. It's like, I just got to sit here and draw through all these books and really try to grasp what's in front of me, because my observation isn't enough. I need to observe by doing, the act of doing. It's going to teach me a lot more. But yeah, I'm not a good script writer, so I couldn't help you there. I would say, look on these forums for other people that are excited and passionate about script writing, and look at their scripts. If you like what they're doing, collaborate with them. Collaboration is integral for, creative individuals. I work a little bit too much in a vacuum at times, or isolation, and I probably shouldn't. It's just kind of the way I am. But there's definitely times that I see there's some negatives to that. When you work with other people that are inspired and creative, you feed off that. It's just like, I can't, I haven't got back to the comic shows yet, but I need those suckers back in my life. Like, that's every time I would get there, I would feel inspired to draw something better than I had before, or I'd always feel like I did a better sketch or something. And then I always left energized. So yeah, unfortunately, with all the craziness that went down, I got out of the habit of those. Well, and then I had to wait for them to start back up. But yeah, it's time to get back in there. Hopefully, I'm hoping we get through all this without any relapses of, Anyways, I don't want to get all negative here. Yeah, and then the community we have here on YouTube. It's like people are sitting there commenting about it now. Ask questions on these videos. Maybe I should have some writers on the channel. I've never done that. It's kind of silly. It's hand in hand with great art, right? You gotta have great writing, great storytellers. So maybe I'll do that. I'll try to get some writers on the channel here. And forgive me, I'm kind of cherry picking some of these comments, so I can keep drawing. Do you think I need to memorize all that I draw to learn to draw? No, definitely not. There are times that you're going to feel very confident about drawing one thing and very out of your element drawing another. That's just part of the game, and that's why really what's better than trying to memorize everything that you draw is knowing where to find good resource material, good reference. That's why drawing from comics is so important. It's so accepted. Like it's almost like people think that that's cheating. I know that I've felt that way at times, and that's unfortunate because it's really not, and it's really just hurting us as individuals trying to, yeah, like you said, memorize everything. Good luck on that. You know, for one, I've got a horrible memory as it is, so I would say my visual memory is a bit better, but it's not perfect. And you know, if you instead develop skills that are in a process that relies on you just being good at absorbing information as you need it. So, drawing a picture and oh shoot, you know what? Hold on, I'll show you something that'll probably make more sense with this. Yeah, so here we go. Sorry, I had to walk away for a minute. My studio's a mess. So this one right here, right? Yeah, so I drew this and I was actually looking at a panel from another artist. You know what? I'm gonna try you guys real quick. What artist was I looking at when I drew this? See what answers we get real quick. Down, 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 down. Anybody? Is this a game nobody wants to play? Come on. What artist was I looking at when I drew this? Finch? I don't know. Because it's all yours? Jazza? You guys are hilarious. No one because it's all yours. Thanks, Jack. So no, Jim Lee, Finch, no, come on, people. Wow. All right, so I covered my tracks really good. Anyways, this is the point. I was totally biting off somebody else's design here. It's Dale Kean, which I'm probably slaughtering his name. But what I did here is I took the same layout, this was Hulk, this was Wolverine, this was from, what's the storyline that, it's a digital book, so I can't show you the book. Is it Maestro? Anyways, it's one of the more recent books that Dale Kean just illustrated, right? The reason why I wanted to draw this was because, Van Gogh, nice. The reason why I wanted to draw this was because what I noticed he did here, you know, I always love his layouts, and they're so clean, but I liked how he layered like some bushes, tree line or whatever, and some buildings, and he was able to drop in the buildings with very light detail. He does that actually a lot. I think it's kind of a cool cheat because here it is, I'm trying to draw these building details and I'm getting a little too involved and a little too stressed out at times. And he does this effect where, hey, I don't have to draw the bottom of these buildings if I drop in this bush or tree line, and then it adds a layer and it creates a little more depth. Now, I didn't draw it anywhere near to the quality that he does, obviously. That's not the point, but I think it's important to take these things and not just draw them exactly like the artist, but practice drawing in your own characters. And, you know, it teaches you so much because, again, you're picking apart different things that a pro is doing right. And then also, you're basically, you're strengthening your ability to have all sorts of reference material. You know, David Finch talks about this a lot on his channel. You know, he shows the different books that he's pulled from and people that he admires and who he pulls inspiration from. So anyways, that's why I wanted to share that one with you, is that basically it just allows you to have so much more in the way of reference, that you're not trying to memorize everything, because that's just an impossibility, I would say. At least for me it is. Yeah, so hopefully that answered your question. Again, it's probably a really roundabout way. Yeah, so back on the same topic, essentially, or it is the same topic. Do you have anything to say about, Jack Art saying, do you have anything to say about taking inspiration from other artists? Because when I do it, when I try to use a reference from a different artist, I always feel like I'm copying. You are copying. Copying's okay if you're copying elements of it. And that's, again, that's what I was talking about here. If I share this, I say, hey, I used the layout by Dale Kean because I stuck really tight to his reference. I put in my own characters and maybe I changed the buildings a little bit, not much, but I totally copied his illustration. So I'm not going to swipe that and say it's my own. So I give credit where credit is due, but I don't do that if I'm just taking I took just the layout of this part, not the characters, just the overall idea of two characters being layered back to back. And maybe I change it. Maybe this character's back is more towards us and he's looking over or looking away a little bit more. Or his head's turned this way more. Then I'm not going to say, yeah, I took parts of this element from this book page. No, I guarantee you there's a lot more artists than you think that are doing this, and they don't talk about it, they just draw it, but they're not taking very much from each source. That's usually when people get in trouble, like, the whole Rob Liefeld thing, which I thought was silly, but, people were trying to give him a hard time because he was grabbing layouts from other popular shots. And I get that, but you know what? Is it really any different than taking pieces of it? When you're taking pieces of it, you're kind of just puzzling it together on your own a bit more, and you're kind of covering your tracks. Artists have been swiping and stealing from other artists since the dawn of time. I think it's Picasso that says, learn to steal like, or what is it? You guys can help me out with this one. Something like learn to steal like an artist or something. You have to grab we're all grabbing from life, and then you grab from other artists because they've put their core fundamental things in place working well. But I would say just try not to copy it verbatim. Try not to copy too much. Like in storyboards, and I mentioned this a lot on the channel, we used mood boards. And so the clients would actually give us mood boards, and the mood boards would have all kinds of source material, but like in a big collage, of different things. They'd say, all right, we want these faces, we want these backgrounds, we want this painting style, and boom, 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 and you had to smorgasbord it together, right? And because of that, no one got, well, there's a bit of a difference. Storyboards, you're not producing work for the end result, so anything kind of goes there. They'll tell you to literally trace people, which I always felt really weird doing. But if they want that actor or that face in that scene, they're okay with it, like straight up trace it. And again, I felt weird about that. I had to condition myself to even do that because I was so used to comic art where everybody gives you a hard time if you, heaven forbid you copy a popular layout or something and don't give credit to the artist, which I get it. I totally get it. Like, you should give credit every time. But I know in production art, they take a lot of shortcuts, and there's people that just grab what they can, maybe more of a piece of it, and they just keep on going. They don't sit there and try to, credit every single thing they're doing. So, I mean, shoot, there's so many iconic poses that I know, I look at them like, oh, that's definitely, well, it's been used by an artist that I follow. Maybe he used it from somebody else. So you got those iconic poses, iconic settings that are just, anybody can grab them, right? The superhero landing pose, right? Obviously that's pretty popular, everybody's used that once or twice, or so there's no need to say, oh, I got this from so-and-so, he drew it, unless you're drawing that exact same character, copying it line for line. Then yes, you wouldn't want to pass it off on your own. That would just be like rude. I say it like this: you wouldn't do whatever you wouldn't want somebody to do to you, right? So if you wouldn't want them to do that to your work, then don't do it to theirs. But aside from that, especially if you're studying, draw from everybody, swipe from everybody, especially for studying. And that's what I'm doing right here, right? I'm drawing from John Buscema. I don't know. I'm probably slaughtering that name too. But yeah, this is a great way to learn. Draw from a master. And then looking at it and going, wow, I really need to improve on this. I think he's got the head bigger, which I'm not going to draw this to a finished degree. This is probably where I'll stop it. But yeah, I got to do more of this. And maybe I'll do more of these videos where I just sit here and draw from these popular books. My last video was actually on that. And yeah, I feel it's like something I need to do. Draw more panels from comics, more from these art books, and just learn and grow. All right, let me read through these real quick. Yeah, there it is. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and yeah, Neil Adams, I think he's the one that does that video, right, where he gets kind of livid about the whole thing. And it's just the truth, man. It's like, it's just this weird idea that artists have to create everything in a bubble. You know, that it has to be 100% theirs. And I just think that's so unrealistic, you know, when you think about it. Like, we're just not we're not really creating things as much as we like to pin our tag on that. Like, you know, we like to hang our hat on this idea that, you know, I created this all out of my imagination. No, your imagination is faded memories. Like, you're just remembering stuff that you've taken into your brain box, and, you know, you managed to pull enough of it out and hodgepodge it together into a creation. Now, I'm not trying to demean the creative process. I love the creative process. I'm all for it. I'm just saying that, you know, sometimes you got to be realistic and say, okay, everything is a bit of a copy of a copy. You know, all these superheroes that we love and admire, you know, they've been revamped from other concepts over and over, and I don't think any of them are entirely original, but I don't know. I think that's an unpopular opinion. I think that when I say that, it probably ticks people off, but who knows? Tomic says, Robert, do you think you can still make a living off art today or in the future? Oh, definitely. Definitely. So there's that sketch. You know, look at How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. He did it way better. But yeah, so I'm going to go back to one I was kind of working on there. And so yeah, so do I think you can make a living off it? Definitely. Like I don't, I've said this before on my channel, but I don't actually make my living off the actual comics. I'm trying to do that more and more. I do because I make a living off drawing and teaching and making digital products on Gumroad. So if you followed me for any length of time, you know that I have a Gumroad. I have a Teachable where I sell my courses online on Teachable, Udemy. So you guys probably already know that, or most of you do. And so that's what makes the bulk of my living. But the good thing is I get to sit here and draw this stuff day in and day out. So what I try to tell people is that you got to quit thinking so unilaterally, so lateral, or not laterally, what's the word I'm looking for? Linearly. Linear? Quit being so linear in your thinking and thinking that you just have to get in and draw comics for some big company, or even that you have to do an Indiegogo and fund your comic. I mean, which is great. I definitely recommend you go that route. But what I'm saying is, these aren't the only ways that you can do it. There's so many different ways you could do it. The way that you might do it might not even have been invented yet. You might be the one to invent it. The only way you're going to get there is if you literally open up your mind and think outside of the box. That there are so many options with the digital age and with online products and that. Being able to share something across the globe. I can make a product right now, put it online. If I have a following, if I have a good rapport, people, like my stuff, then it's going to sell, right? And I can make something and sell it. Before, you had to work with a company, you had to get under their umbrella, and you had to make something and hope that they kept you around. Like, I just had a problem with Skillshare. Like, I got all these classes on Skillshare, and then they start telling me that I got to update them and revamp them and change this and do that. And I'm like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? Because, if they change the rules too many times and all those classes come down, I got to be ready, right? I got to maneuver. So you have to, I always love this terminology or this phrase by Bruce Lee. He's like, be like water. Water can flow from one thing to the next, or water can be a wave, a powerful wave, and crash through something. Just stating that you've got to be liquid in your approach and your thought process, everything. you know, you got to, there's times you need to be very strong. There's times that you need to flow and maneuver and rethink your situation. Um, but with art, there's so many opportunities. I mean, think about it. You're making a visual picture that can elicit an emotional response with people, right? How powerful is that? Uh, you know, when you go in a store and you buy something, there's an emotion there, right? You look at something, you like it, you buy it. Art checks so many of those boxes. It's so silly that artists have struggled for any length of time when you think about the potential of what art really is. And it's really just, I always blame it on this. I think that artists are notoriously bad business people. And I think that's why there's this stigma and belief that, you know, you have to struggle with art. Um, I think that really what you just need to do is look at your possibilities, because there's a lot of them. Like back in the day when I was doing signs for Michigan Window Tinting and Fine Arts, it was a company I worked for you know, I think 5, 6 years, and it was a great opportunity because it taught me a lot about marketing and dealing with people. And I was making graphics and logo designs and stuff like that. And one of the things that was really great about that was you realize that, man, people really love seeing whatever it is they enjoy put on to almost anything, their cars, their shirts, you know, whatever. We made all that stuff. Like, we had a heat press machine. We would make designs and then heat press them onto shirts, onto hats. So once you start, and this is, again, this is way back before digital. Now you can start an online store where they'll make your products and sell them. And yes, you have to figure out how to make the audience, or how to nurture an audience, which is, you know, it's pretty tricky. I wouldn't say it's easy, but, you know, I was able to do it, so you can too. It's it's just really like learning marketing and then saying, okay, I'm going to build relationships. I'm going to ask people what they want to see. What do they like about my art? What would they like to see more of from me? That's ultimately what led me into making those courses. I was asking you guys on the channel, if you guys look at my old videos, I was making just little time-lapse videos of drawings just because I had my sign shop still. I was just kind of, you know, thinking of ways I could show off some art and have some fun on YouTube. It wasn't like I thought, oh, this is going to turn into a business one day. I thought I was going to have my sign shop for the rest of my life. And I knew that I wasn't happy doing it, but I felt like, oh, I put 15 years in it. This is my life now. You know, this is where I'm going to retire or whatever. And then all of a sudden you guys were saying, like, you know, hey, you know, I mean, I don't know you guys, how many people have been with me since the beginning, but people were saying, hey, we'd like to see this. Hey, they'd ask questions and I would answer them. And that's another part, you know, having some dialogue and helping people, like sitting here and reading your guys' comments. I could ignore the comments. I could say, you know, I'm too busy. You know, whatever. I got to draw this picture of Venom that I want to draw. I want to do what I want to do. Or I can stop what I'm doing and I can help you. Well, think about it. I mean, what is that? That's working together. That's a business even in a sense. But there's like some Zig Ziglar quote, and I think it's really, really cool. It's like, if you want to find your success, help as many people as you can find their success. Something to that. I know I'm paraphrasing. I know I'm slaughtering it. But that stuff is real. Like, you just got to help people and then listen. And then they'll tell you and direct you and help you. And this is, again, back to that audience building thing. They will tell you what you need to do. But you have to be receptive to that information. It's just like this. Like, if I want to become a better artist, I have to say, okay, what do you guys think doesn't look good about this? And I have to listen. I can't just say that and then, you know, you tell me and then I'm like, yeah, whatever. This is cool. I don't know what you're talking about. No, if I want to become better and find my success basically in art, I need to listen to what's not right. And I'll be honest, that's not easy for me, but I keep coming back and I keep doing it because I know that this isn't perfect. If it was, I'd probably be working it for Marvel or DC or whatever, who knows. But that's not really the point. The point I'm trying to make is, if I want to get better, I have to be receptive of, you know, what people are saying to me. And so, yeah, but again, back to Tomic's original question, I think there are tons of ways to make money with art because art is powerful. And now you have all these things in front of you that allow you to create a store and develop a business with people all around the world. I mean, if that doesn't make it easy for you, nothing will. And then you just have to decide what's your real motivator, what's your real passion. Do you want to just straight make comics? Cool, that's cool. But don't dink around with it, like kind of like what I'm doing with my Blackstone comic, make a panel here and there and expect success. No. if I start churning out page after page like I do my fan art, for some reason I have more energy to do this, which it shouldn't be that way, but I'm just acknowledging it. Um, but if I want my comic to be a success, I have to treat it like a job, draw every single day, panel after panel after panel, good, bad, doesn't matter, get it out, accept, trust the process, and then accept that not all of them are going to be great, and then keep moving forward. If you treat things like a business, you'll make a living, but you have to really be all in it. There's another term I like. I hate to keep quoting these what do you call it, motivational quotes or whatever, but they apply. They work to me, anyways. But like one of them is there's a term you hear a lot where it's called like burn the bridges. Not burn the bridges. Sorry, that's a bad one. Don't burn the bridges. You need the bridges. Burn the boats. So what it basically says is that, and I think this story got taken out of context, but what it's basically saying is, imagine if you were dropped on an island, your army was positioned on an island, and the leader told you to burn the ships. Now you have to win that war, and that's what we have to do with. If you're especially if you're a procrastinator, if you make up excuses, you're not getting enough done, burn the ships. So that put yourself in a situation where it's do or die, sink or swim. If you can really do that mentally, then you're going to bring out the best in yourself. And some of us really need that. We really need to be put, our backs against the wall for us to really excel. I think that's why it's so important that people do draw comics that want to do it for a living. Like literally take a deadline and a job and go for it. Because, you're going to find out a lot about yourself. And then sometimes you need that. You need somebody like saying, hey, we need this next page. We need this book done by the end of the month. Or, I wouldn't take a monthly book, probably every other month. But still, whatever that deadline is. And then you'll bring out the best in yourself. And that's important. Because if not, like me, I sit around, hide, and do my little fan art. I don't per se make money off selling comics right now. I would like to do more of that, and that's why I practice this stuff. But I also need to sit down and draw my own book, like I've said many times over. And I end up getting a panel out here and there. It's just kind of silly. Yeah, Christian Thompson, I appreciate that. That's a good suggestion. Try to do some art that's not comic related. Yeah, this is kind of touches on that, but I've been wanting to do more of just drawing like some animals. I'm terrible at animals, so I need to practice it. I think it'd be good to share on the channel. And then also regular settings. Drawing a table setting with, fruit basket, whatever, just different things, different settings, because it really does help to make you more well-rounded. And then there's parts of like drawing for people where they're probably not all going to come up and say, draw me a superhero. I learned that back when I was in the sign industry. People would have me drawing all kinds of wild stuff, and you have to rise to the occasion to draw things you're not used to. Gustavo, really appreciate the support. Glad you're a student on there. I hope you're enjoying the course content. Yeah, so like what AWAB is saying, a lot of people want success, but they're not prepared or understand how to run a business and how to market. And it's so true. And it's not like it's the easiest thing in the world, but there's tons of great content out there for that, tons of great books. And you just have to consume the knowledge and then implement it. That's all it is. And then tweak what you're doing. So when something's not working, you don't give up, you tweak it and you come back again. And small interval changes can really zero you in on success pretty quickly if you got to not get frustrated by it, though. I think that's a big part. A lot of people they get frustrated and scared of what they don't understand. I guess I'm lucky there because I get intrigued by what I don't understand. I look at it more of as a challenge, but you have to just relax, allow yourself to make mistakes, fail faster, as they say, and then get through to the successes, by making those mistakes and making interval changes until you get to what you're after. And then there's a lot to be said for just consistency. Like that's something I'm trying to improve on with comics. Is just if I could just sit there and keep drawing and not stop so much. So I've stopped as I'm sitting here yapping, um, but like social media and all that, shutting that stuff all down and off, and just using it when you need to market, because it's great for marketing. I'm not going to knock social media for marketing. Instagram's awesome, Facebook's helpful, you know, YouTube's been phenomenal. But sometimes you got to shut that stuff all down, put on your favorite soundtrack, and just draw, and then see how long, and keep track of it. See how long do you stop every 20 minutes? Can you get a good hour of straight drawing? Can you get a good 5 hours of straight drawing? I'll tell you where you're at. Can I draw horses? No. I'll try. I will. I need to. I'll tell you right now, if it's a horse, a cat, a dog, an eagle, a car, I'm pulling reference. Um, but yeah, I struggle with those. My eagles look like chickens, so yeah, I always pull reference for animals. I remember I painted a buddy of mine loves his dogs and has Alaskan Malamute. Still to this day does, and this is way back. And I painted one of them on airbrushed it on a tire cover, and I was so terrified because I'm like, he's gonna hate this thing. This is his baby, his beautiful dog. Is people are with their animals like their kids. And I'm like, oh, why would you ask me to do this? And how do I tell him no? He's a good friend, and I did it, but I was so terrified. He loved it, thank goodness. But yeah, back in my airbrushing days, those were the days when I was just a wee little artist airbrushing on people's stuff. Yeah, and that's what's funny is like I don't see that as out as much anymore, but that was a big money maker back in the day. It was like you could buy an airbrush, get really good at that, and get the right inks or paints, airbrush on shirts, cars, you name it. Yeah, I knew some guys that made a killing with that. But it's almost like one of those skill trades that you don't know about. Like, you never people don't realize how well plumbers doing, how well carpenters doing different things until you know one of them. They're like, wow, they do really well. Well, yeah, it's a really good skill that can be utilized for a lot of things. And airbrushing is a little trickier. You got to find a client base, but they're out there. And yeah, you can. I don't know what they're doing these days because I don't talk with as many of them now. But back then, which would have been like 90s, early 2000s, they were making a killing. Some of those guys that got so good at painting, are painting murals and cars and yeah, motorcycles was a big one. Doing some beautiful motorcycle paint jobs. Just trying to read through as I'm yapping here. Yeah, again, thanks, Gustavo. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I'm 45, getting ready to be 46. Time is a flying. Oh yeah, H.R. Geiger. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Was he airbrush or I thought that was mixed media? But okay, that's airbrush. He's on a whole nother level though, or was on a whole nother level. Freaking invented the concept for aliens, right? I guess you could say Ripley. Was it Wrigley? Ripley? The heck was it? The guy that invented the concept. He wrote the book, but then Geiger designed all the characters, which I would say is just important. Wasn't there some big deal about that? Like who got the credit for that or something? I don't know. But yeah, Geiger's amazing. His work is sick and stunning. Sick in a cool way, though. Yeah, so then as I go back like this into the scene, You see, like back here, I would put like almost no detail. I'd just get like some rough shapes and then start blocking things in with more shadow. So yeah, I kind of try to think about that when doing these little background areas. Well, if I can just get some good detail right here, that's where your eye is going to go. And then, you know, stuff back here can be silhouettes. Take some little cheats. Oh yeah, Soriyama is off the charts. Now I know Soriyama was mixed media, but it was a mix of airbrush, watercolor, acrylic. I think it was all kind of pulled together. Nice, yeah. MD Dangerously. First step in airbrushing business plan, find a lot of people that own bands. That's hilarious. Yeah, see, and that's why back in the day they did so well. I mean, you know, I guess I was more of a kid, but back in like the late 80s and even the 90s, but definitely the 80s, everybody wanted like a mural on the side of their conversion van. It was definitely a big uh, market for that. I mean, conversion vans. I don't even know if they do those anymore, but back in the 80s, that was the thing. Yeah, so I appreciate everybody tuning in. If there's any final questions, let me know. I'm going to wrap this up and get some din din. Papa needs his protein. Time for some food. Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do too is try to do another stream where, you know, we go into it with, you know, you guys ready to show some of your work, but I'd really like to see work that, you know, maybe I can try to assist with. I think that would make for a good stream so we can do some drawovers. And then, yeah, I can be active in saying, well, hey, here's how I draw this certain thing. And maybe we'll get some more back and forth going on with that. So I'll use StreamYard for that and then bring you guys in and try to see how that goes. Oh, Graphicon, good question. So yes, are you coming out with another art book? I am actually. I've been working on it. I'm still in the infancy stages of it, but I'm actually doing it's going to be all digital unless I can find a good print on demand to make printed copies for you guys. But it's going to be at least a sizable quality digital PDF, and I'll make sure to keep everybody posted as I get closer to releasing that. Yeah, I appreciate you guys showing up and watching today. You know, it's very cool of you. That's the least I can say. Like it's very cool that you guys show up and follow the channel, and it allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. So I'm extremely thankful for that. So anything I can do, you guys ask any questions. I'll try to get back. I don't always get back to everybody, and I'm sorry for that. I try to answer as many as I can. Um, but I'm definitely prioritizing all the course students, you know, that ask questions on the course. I'm trying to wake up every day and answer their questions first, just because, you know, they paid for a course. I gotta take care of my students. And I'm gonna plug that one more time. Just keep in mind, I've got courses on my own site. You can find them on ramstudiocomics.com. There's a button up top that says Ram Studios Art School. You can check those out. I do have a free course that you guys can sign up for, and that will at least allow you to get started and see what you think. And then if you like the other content, let me know. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And then obviously all the stuff on Gumroad. So sorry about the shameless plug, but that's kind of how I do my biz. Yeah, thanks, Shani B. Really appreciate that. Yeah, Z Space, the stream will be available after we shut it down here. It'll take a little bit to process, and then it goes right up on YouTube. Bari, you're saying you mentioned a lighter pencil. I don't know if you're talking about this, but I use HB and 2H lead, and that's my process for doing all this. This looks all a little bit more smudgy than normal because it's a bit of a thinner paper. It's not Bristol board. And then also, you know, I drag my hand through there, and you know I should just be putting a sheet of paper under my hand. But the darker lead, the softer lead, which is the HB, tends to smudge more. But I feel like I need it now. Like I don't know what it is. My eyes are getting bad or something. I don't. It's hard for me to see this 2H stuff. I need like the darker lead. I even got one that's a bit darker, which I don't know what it would be, 2B maybe or something. But this stuff's real dark right here, and I'll sometimes go over the very end of it and darken like the perimeter lines. I don't know. It's not really that necessary, but I like using HB. Yeah, thanks, Graphicon. I know. I always feel guilty though. Like, here's my products, like. But yes, you got to market yourself, and that is something I got to put out there because, like, I'm trying to teach you guys how to. Some of you guys are trying to learn how to make your own online art businesses, right? I imagine that's why you follow. Some to draw, some to do your own thing. So yeah, I have to say that yes, you do have to do that. You got to suck it up and promote yourself, share your work everywhere. Don't be afraid. I see these people and they'll say, I'm trying to get better at drawing. Da, da, da. And I'll say, all right, where can I see your work at? Well, I posted this one thing, but it didn't do so well, so I took it down. Like, no, no, no. You got to be braver than that. I know it's not easy. Some of us are introverted, and we kind of get chill. We like to chillax, and but you got to be bold and put your stuff out there. And if you're passionate about it, chances are you're going to find other people that are passionate about it. But you just got to go for it. And that goes along with self-promotion, marketing, sharing your work all over the place, and then letting people, people say it sucks. That's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. It doesn't matter. People looked at this and critiqued it, and every shot I do. It doesn't matter though. That's not the point. The point is that you just keep making stuff daily, and you'll get so much better that you're always going to have critics. I think there's another phrase where somebody said, like, if you're not ticking somebody off, you're not doing it right. And I like that one too. Like because you're eliciting emotional responses, right? So if you're getting somebody mad within reason, I guess, you're probably doing something right. But yeah, on that note, I'll bring it to a close. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. It's awesome. I hope you're doing well wherever you're at on this crazy globe of ours. More content is on the way very soon. So as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.